Welcome to the Veterinary Medicine Loan Repayment Program, also known as Vmlrp, webinar for interested applicants. This webinar is designed to give you an in-depth explanation of the Vmlrp application process for loan documents. I am Linda Cambron, Branch Chief for the Capacity Awards Management Division here at NIFA. The Capacity Branch Grants Management Specialists will be the team reviewing the loan documents you submit. Their team lead is Dylan Graham, who is another point of contact besides me currently working the post-award management of the Vmlrp. We can be reached through the Vmlrp at USDA.gov mailbox. We will cover the following items within this webinar: an overview of the Vmlrp, brief explanation of the application process, eligibility of applicants to participate, eligibility of loans for Vmlrp, documentation required within an application, some specific information for you about the loan documents required, and finally, how NIFA reviews the loan documents submitted. The Vmlrp, as authorized by the National Veterinary Medical Services Act, NVMSA, helps qualified veterinarians offset a significant portion of their debt incurred in pursuit of their veterinary medicine degrees in return for their services in certain high priority veterinary shortage situations, or commonly called areas. NIFA fulfills NVMSA by entering into educational loan repayment contracts with veterinarians who agree to provide veterinary services in these high priority shortage situations for a determined length of time. If a veterinarian commits to at least 3 years of veterinary services in a designated veterinary shortage situation, NIFA may repay up to $25,000 of their veterinary medicine student loan debt per year, at a maximum of $75,000 for a 3-year period. Loan repayment benefits are limited to payments of the principal and interest on government and commercial loans received for attendance at an accredited college of veterinary medicine, resulting in a degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine or the equivalent. It is important to note that loan repayments under the Vmlrp are not grants. This is why Vmlrp applications are not submitted through the federal portal called grants.gov. There are several aspects about this program that you would not normally find in a grant, such as a review of your personal financial documents and the process undertaken to designate the veterinary shortage situations for the program. Since the inception of the Vmlrp in fiscal year 2010, we have received over 1,700 applications and awarded over 600 veterinarians across the country. This slide provides a high-level overview of the application process. Applicants are encouraged to contact recommenders and collect loan documents as early as possible. Applicants should be sure to read through the RFA to determine if they are eligible to apply. We will be going over each application form to be completed later in this webinar, and there is also an application guide on our website that provides a step-by-step guide in preparing and submitting an application. After NIFA receives all applications by the deadline, a 3-part evaluation process takes place. First is a peer review of applications to determine suggested awardees. Then is a loan documentation review of those applications received. Finally, NIFA works toward announcement of all awards to hopefully be completed by September 30th. This date is subject to change, and we will also go over these steps in more detail later in this webinar. To be eligible to receive a Vmlrp award, an applicant must have a DVM degree or the equivalent from a college of veterinary medicine accredited by the AVMA Council on Education, have qualifying educational loan debt as defined in 7 CFR 3431, Section 3 of the VMLRP regulations, secure an offer of employment or establish and/or maintain a practice in a veterinary shortage situation within 90 days after award notification, and provide certifications and verifications in accordance with 7 CFR 3431, Section 16. The VMLRP eligibility requirements are available on the VMLRP website. We encourage you to review the eligibility sections and contact us if you have questions before you submit your application. The following individuals are not eligible to apply to the VMLRP. An individual who owes an obligation for veterinary service to the federal government, a state government, or any other entity under an agreement with such federal, state, or other entity, unless such obligation will be completely satisfied prior to the beginning of service under the VMLRP. An individual who has a federal judgment lien against his or her property arising from federal debt, and an individual who has total qualified debt that does not meet the debt threshold of $15,000. Loan repayments provided under the VMLRP consist of principal and interest on qualifying educational loans received by a recipient for attendance at an accredited college of veterinary medicine, resulting in a degree of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, or DVM, or the equivalent. An accredited college of veterinary medicine for VMLRP purposes is defined as a college of veterinary medicine accredited by the American Veterinary Medical Association, AVMA, Council on Education. VMLRP will only repay debt incurred at an institution that is accredited at the time of attendance and graduation from that institution. If an institution received full accreditation status during your attendance at the institution, only the portion of veterinary school loans dispersed after the institution's date of accreditation will be repaid. This includes any scenario involving an individual transferring from a non-accredited institution to an accredited institution. Individuals with a degree from an institution that was not accredited at the time the degree was received are ineligible for an award. If an individual attends an accredited institution, then transfers to a non-accredited institution to receive their DVM degree, they are ineligible for an award. If you are unsure of your own situation, please email vmlrp@usda.gov with questions. Some eligible expenses that are considered for an award include tuition expenses, other reasonable educational expenses, and reasonable living expenses as defined in 7 CFR 3431, Section 3. Finally, you must have a minimum qualifying educational loan of $15,000 from a lender capable of accepting incoming automated clearinghouse, ACH, payments. The following loans are not eligible for repayment under the VMLRP. Any loans which were not obtained from a bank, credit union, savings and loan association, not-for-profit organization, insurance company, school, or other financial or credit institution subject to examination and supervision as a lending institution by an agency of the United States or the state in which the lender has its principal place of business. For example, a loan from an employer is ineligible as it is not a lending institution examined or supervised by an agency of the United States or the state of the principal place of business. Loans for which supporting documentation is not available loans that have been consolidated with loans of other individuals, such as spouses or children, loans or portions of loans obtained for educational or living expenses which exceed the standard of reasonableness as determined by the participant's standard school budget for the year in which the loan was dispersed. These expenses are not deemed reasonable by the Secretary of USDA based on an additional documentation provided by the individual. Loans, financial debts, or service obligations incurred under another loan repayment or scholarship program or similar program, which provides loan, scholarship, loan repayment, or other awards in exchange for a future service obligation. For example, you received the Army's Health Professions Scholarship the last 2 years of veterinary school. Any debt incurred during those 2 years of that scholarship are not eligible for VMLRP. However, the first 2 years would be eligible. Non-educational loans, including home equity loans. And finally, any loan in default, delinquency, or not in a current payment status. So new applicants are responsible for completing and submitting 6 NIFA application forms, in addition to providing copies of other information, such as a resume, transcript, promissory notes, and loan details. Applications must be received by 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, April 16th, 2022. Applications received after this deadline will not be considered for funding. An individual may submit only 1 application per cycle. Please be sure to retain a copy of your entire application for your own personal records. The loan information form, NIFA-04-10, requests information on qualified loans you want considered for the VMLRP. If you have more than 1 qualified loan, complete this form for each group of loans with the same loan servicer. You must complete sections 1 through 3 before submitting this form with your application. Do not complete section 4 on this form. This will be completed by a representative at your loan servicer if you are awarded a VMLRP contract. A promissory note, account statement, and your federal student aid loan details are required for every educational loan included in your VMLRP application. These documents should have your name, address, account number or numbers, balances, and disbursement information. Do not download the information from the federal student aid website, as that download is in a format we are unable to decipher. You will have to take screen prints and save each section to PDF to include within your loan information package. If you do not have the necessary loan documentation in your possession, you are strongly urged to start contacting your lenders right away. Some lenders take several weeks to process your request for promissory notes, especially for older loans. It is important that you ask your lenders to send documents directly to you so you can retain a copy for your records before you send a copy to us. This allows you to quickly resend the documents in case there is a problem with your submittal. Renewal applications do not need to submit this form. However, it is helpful if you do. We do reserve the right to request updated information on any loans included in your application. The certifications for application form, NIFA-06-10, is composed of 3 sections. Each section requires your signature within it. Your signature may be electronic or ink, whichever you prefer. Signing section 1 validates the contractual agreement for loan repayment and authorizes the release of information about your loans by the lending institution, servicing agent, and/or institutional program named in your application. Your signature in Section 2 certifies the accuracy of information you have provided within the application. This signature also confirms your understanding of the consequences that may be imposed on you in the event of false, fictitious, or fraudulent information being provided. Finally, your signature in Section recommendations to be included in the application and to be used in the program. The intent of employment form, NIFA-07-10, identifies the designated veterinary shortage area you intend to fill upon receipt of a VMLRP award. Use the designated veterinary shortage area map on the Vmlrp website to identify your choice. The code for the shortage area is provided near the upper right corner of the nomination form. You will enter this 5-digit shortage identification code in Section 1. You may only apply for one shortage area. The code you enter here must match the code you have entered on the applicant information form, NIFA-01-10, submitted in your PDF number 1. You also need to provide contact information for the prospective employer and/or hiring official in Section 1 if you will be working for someone else. If you will be working for yourself, you complete this part of Section 1 with your own practice information. If you will be working for someone else, they also must sign Section 2. If you are working for yourself, then you sign Section 2. It is important to understand the VMLRP is a loan repayment and incentive program designed to relieve a significant debt burden so a DVM can pursue, develop, and sustain rewarding professional opportunities within the parameters defined by the Veterinary Service Commitment. It is your responsibility to find or develop an employment situation within and effectively serve a shortage area that will enable fulfillment of obligations as specified in your agreement. The VMLRP is not responsible for creating any employment opportunities. This form is not required for renewal applicants unless employment has or will change during the term of the agreement period. A sample contract is available for review on the VMLRP website. You will not submit a contract with your application. However, it is recommended you review this sample before submitting your application documents to understand the terms and conditions you will be held to if you are selected for an award. The VMLRP contract is a legal agreement binding the selected applicant and the Secretary of USDA or their designee to the terms and conditions for participation in the VMLRP. This includes obligations of both parties. The contract must be signed by the applicant and the Secretary or their designee before the agreement will be in effect. You will receive an official copy of the contract to sign and return if you are selected for an award. A potential issue you may encounter when preparing your loan document package is what to do if you have consolidated your loans. Individuals who have consolidated their veterinary school loans may still apply for the VMLRP. When applying, you must include not only your consolidated loan information with details, but all individual loan information paid for by the consolidated loan. Remember, this is all details for every loan, including total amounts and disbursements made for each loan. Be sure to get this information from the Federal Student Aid website. Be aware, veterinary loans consolidated with other educational loans, such as undergraduate loans, are allowed to apply for the VMLRP. However, only the veterinary school loans are eligible to be repaid. Individuals who have consolidated their DVM loans with non-educational or loans belonging to an individual other than the applicant, such as a spouse or a child, are ineligible for consideration. A web page dedicated to consolidated loans is available on the Vmlrp website within the applicants section. This section also includes an example of how the amount of your award will be calculated if your DVM loans were consolidated with other educational loans. Remember, it can take several weeks to receive some documentation from a loan servicer. It is important you ask lenders to send documents you need as soon as possible and directly to you so you can retain a copy for your records before sending to NIFA. This will allow you to quickly resend any documentation should something go wrong with your submittal. Finally, missing recommendations within your application would delay consideration of your application. Please be sure to contact your recommenders as early as possible to give them ample time to complete the recommendation form on your behalf. All information you submit will be reviewed by the Vmlrp. The Awards Management Division reviews all loan documents submitted in detail. Therefore, after compiling all required forms and information, please save the entire file in an Adobe PDF with the title of shortage area you are applying for, period, your last name, hyphen, and the words loan documents at the end. An example would be IN224.Johnson-loan documents. All documentation for your loans must be submitted as one PDF attachment to your application email. This includes all NIFA forms, as well as promissory notes, account balances from your loan servicer or servicers, and all the individual loan details retrieved from the Federal Student Aid website. A complete attachment will ensure prompt review of your application. The Awards Management Division will review all information within your application. If there are any questions, the team will reach out for clarification. Please be sure all contact information for you is current and accurate. If you are unable to provide any missing information or provide clarity to a question, your application may be disqualified. Please do not send separate emails for your application attachments. Only send one email with both PDF application documents attached, one PDF with all loan documentation, and one PDF for all program documentation. Do not send two separate emails. Also, due to file sizes and software situations uncontrollable by anyone, please be sure to confirm your application was received. Finally, the VMLR team is here as a resource for you. The website does have some frequently asked questions that may assist you. However, please feel free to send an email to vmlrp@usda.gov and or vmlrp.applications@usda.gov for additional assistance. We do our best to reply within 24 to 48 hours upon receipt of an inquiry. However, that may be delayed due to the current transition NIFA is undergoing with management of the VMLRP. We sincerely appreciate your patience during this transition. Thank you for watching the webinar and have a great day.